Welcome, dear viewers, to a captivating journey through one of the most intriguing and dramatic tales from the Holy Bible. Today, we delve into the life of Jezebel, a queen whose ambition, power, and defiance left an indelible mark on the history of ancient Israel. Set around the 9th century BCE, this story unfolds in the bustling city of Samaria and the royal palace of Jezreel. Jezebel, the daughter of Baal, king of the Sidonians, married King Ahab of Israel, forging a powerful political alliance. However, her fervent worship of Baal and Asherah introduced a wave of idolatry that challenged the worship of Yahweh, the God of Israel. Her story is a vivid tapestry of intrigue, conflict, and prophecy, with a cast of characters including King Ahab, the prophet Elijah, and the fierce warrior Jehu. Join us as we explore the rise and fall of this formidable queen, whose actions and their consequences continue to resonate through the annals of history. Through her tale, we witness the eternal struggle between faith and idolatry, power and downfall, and the unyielding justice of divine prophecy. Prepare to be enthralled by the epic saga of Jezebel. King Ahab, the 7th king of Israel, stood tall and regal, his crown gleaming under the bright sun. He was a strong and ambitious ruler, eager to solidify his power and expand his influence. By his side was Princess Jezebel, a striking figure in her royal Phoenician attire. Her dark hair was intricately braided, and her eyes sparkled with determination and intelligence. Jezebel, the daughter of Baal, king of the Sidonians, brought with her the rich culture and traditions of her homeland, Phoenicia. The marriage was more than just a union of two people. It was a strategic alliance between two powerful kingdoms. The Phoenician cities, known for their wealth and maritime prowess, would provide Israel with valuable trade opportunities and military support. As the ceremony commenced, priests from both cultures chanted blessings, merging the religious practices of Israel and Phoenicia. The guests, dressed in their finest garments, watched in awe as the couple exchanged vows. The wedding feast that followed was a grand celebration, with tables laden with the finest delicacies and wines from across the region. However, beneath the surface of this joyous occasion, a subtle tension lingered. Jezebel's introduction of Phoenician gods, particularly Baal and Asherah, would soon clash with the worship of Yahweh, the God of Israel. This union, while politically advantageous, would sow the seeds of religious and cultural conflict that would shape the fate of Israel. The royal wedding marked the beginning of Jezebel's influence in Israel. As queen, she would soon use her power and charisma to steer the nation towards her own religious beliefs, setting the stage for a dramatic and tumultuous chapter in the history of Israel. Once settled as queen, Jezebel wasted no time in promoting the worship of her native gods, Baal and Asherah. Unlike Yahweh, the God of Israel, Baal was considered a god of fertility and storms, while Asherah was seen as a mother goddess. Jezebel's passionate devotion to these deities was evident in her every action. Jezebel's influence began subtly but quickly grew more pronounced. She commissioned the construction of grand temples and altars dedicated to Baal throughout Israel, especially in the capital city of Samaria. Lavish ceremonies and rituals became common, drawing the curiosity and participation of many Israelites. King Ahab, deeply infatuated with Jezebel, supported her endeavors wholeheartedly. He even participated in these foreign rituals, further blurring the lines between Yahweh's worship and the idolatrous practices Jezebel introduced. This fusion of religious practices led to widespread confusion and apostasy among the Israelites. Jezebel didn't stop at promoting her gods. She sought to eradicate the worship of Yahweh. She ordered the destruction of Yahweh's altars and persecuted his prophets, driving them into hiding. The once stronghold of Yahwism in Israel began to crumble under her relentless campaign. Elijah, the prophet from Tishbe in Gilead, was a man of fervent faith and unwavering conviction. Clad in a simple garment of camel's hair and a leather belt, he seemed an unlikely challenger to the powerful royal couple. But Elijah was driven by a divine mandate. Elijah's heart pounded as he approached the palace. Inside the opulent halls, King Ahab and Queen Jezebel were seated on their thrones, surrounded by courtiers and idols. The air was thick with incense from Baal's altars, and the atmosphere was one of complacent decadence. With a voice that cut through the clamor, Elijah addressed King Ahab directly. "As the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years, except at my word." The words hung in the air, stark and undeniable. Jezebel's eyes blazed with fury at Elijah's audacity. How dare this prophet of Yahweh challenge the supremacy of Baal? Ahab, caught between his queen's influence and the stark warning, felt a cold shiver of fear. The courtiers whispered among themselves, sensing the gravity of the moment. Elijah's prophecy was not merely a prediction, it was a divine ultimatum. The drought he foretold would soon grip the land, withering crops, drying up streams, and bringing the kingdom to its knees. It was a call for Israel to turn back to the true God and abandon their idolatrous ways. With his message delivered, Elijah turned and walked away, leaving behind a stunned silence. He knew that this act of defiance would put his life in jeopardy, but he trusted in God's protection. The drought began, just as Elijah had said, and the land of Israel felt the weight of divine judgment. The drought had parched the land for 3 years, fulfilling Elijah's prophecy and turning the hearts of the people toward despair. In this context, Elijah proposed a decisive contest on Mount Carmel to prove whose deity was the true God. Elijah stood alone against 450 prophets of Baal. The challenge was simple. Each side would prepare a bull for sacrifice and call upon their deity to ignite the fire. The God who answered with fire would be acknowledged as the true God. From morning until noon, the prophets of Baal called out to their God. They danced, shouted, and even slashed themselves with swords and spears until blood flowed, but there was no response. Elijah taunted them, suggesting their God might be asleep or busy with other matters. The people watched in growing anticipation and doubt. Finally, Elijah took his turn. He repaired the altar of Yahweh, which had been torn down, and arranged the wood and the bull. He then took an extraordinary step to demonstrate Yahweh's power. He dug a trench around the altar and drenched the offering and the wood with 12 large jars of water, enough to fill the trench. Elijah prayed to Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, asking him to reveal his divinity to the people. In an instant, fire fell from heaven, consuming the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and even the water in the trench. The people fell on their faces, proclaiming, "The Lord, He is God! The Lord, He is God!" Elijah then commanded the people to seize the prophets of Baal, who were subsequently taken down to the Kishon Valley and executed, signifying the triumph of Yahweh over the false gods. Jezebel, enraged by the dramatic defeat of Baal's prophets on Mount Carmel, found herself filled with an unquenchable fury. Elijah's victory and the subsequent turning of the people back to Yahweh threatened her influence and the spread of Baal worship she had worked so tirelessly to establish. Determined to maintain her power and eliminate any threats to her authority, she directed her anger squarely at Elijah. Upon hearing of Elijah's triumph and the people's renewed devotion to Yahweh, Jezebel sent a chilling message to the prophet. "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them." Her declaration was a vow of death, a clear indication that she would stop at nothing to see Elijah destroyed. Elijah, understanding the gravity of her threat, fled for his life. He journeyed into the wilderness, seeking solace and guidance from God. He reached a place called Beersheba in Judah, where he left his servant and ventured alone into the desert. Despondent and weary, Elijah prayed for death under a broom tree, but God had other plans. An angel appeared, providing sustenance and encouragement, renewing Elijah's strength for the trials ahead. Back in the palace, Jezebel's wrath only grew. She intensified her efforts to hunt down Elijah, deploying her resources and spies throughout the kingdom. Her relentless pursuit painted a vivid picture of her unyielding determination and absolute refusal to accept defeat. The kingdom of Israel was gripped by fear, and the faithful were forced to choose between their devotion to Yahweh and their fear of Jezebel's retribution. In the heart of Israel, nestled among rolling hills, lay a beautiful vineyard owned by Naboth, a man of integrity and faith. His vineyard, lush and green, had been passed down through generations, a symbol of his family's heritage and God's blessings. One day, King Ahab, eyeing the fertile land, approached Naboth with an offer to buy the vineyard or exchange it for a better one. Naboth, adhering to the laws and traditions of his forefathers, refused, saying, "The Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my ancestors." King Ahab returned to his palace, sullen and vexed. Seeing her husband's distress, Queen Jezebel devised a sinister plan. With cold determination, she took matters into her own hands. Jezebel wrote letters in Ahab's name, sealed them with his seal, and sent them to the elders and nobles of Naboth's city. In these letters, she commanded them to proclaim a fast and seat Naboth in a prominent place among the people. Then, two scoundrels were to bring false accusations against him, claiming he had cursed both God and the king. The punishment for such a crime was death by stoning. The elders and nobles, fearful and complicit, followed Jezebel's instructions. Naboth, an innocent man, was falsely accused and condemned. He was taken outside the city and stoned to death. With Naboth dead, Jezebel informed Ahab that the vineyard was now his to take. Ahab, perhaps unaware of the full extent of Jezebel's machinations, or simply indifferent, seized the vineyard. In the aftermath of Naboth's unjust death and the acquisition of his vineyard by King Ahab, the prophetic voice of Elijah once again pierced through the corruption and darkness that had befallen Israel. God sent Elijah to confront Ahab in the very vineyard stained with Naboth's innocent blood. Ahab, upon seeing Elijah, greeted him with a mixture of fear and resentment. "So you have found me, my enemy," he exclaimed. Elijah, unflinching, responded, "I have found you because you have sold yourself to do evil in the sight of the Lord." Elijah delivered a chilling prophecy. "This is what the Lord says. I will bring disaster on you. I will wipe out your descendants and cut off from Ahab every last male in Israel, slave or free. I will make your house like that of Jeroboam son of Nebat and that of Baasha son of Ahijah, because you have provoked me to anger and have caused Israel to sin." Turning his gaze to the palace where Jezebel resided, Elijah continued, "And also concerning Jezebel, the Lord says, 'Dogs will devour Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel.'" Ahab's face grew pale with dread. Though he had often defied the prophets, the specificity and severity of Elijah's words struck a deep chord of fear. He knew that this judgment was a direct consequence of his and Jezebel's actions. Meanwhile, Jezebel, ensconced in her palace, remained unconcerned and oblivious to the impending doom. This moment was pivotal. It was not just a pronouncement of judgment, but a stark reminder of divine justice. Elijah's words echoed the moral and spiritual decay that Jezebel and Ahab had brought upon Israel. The prophecy was a testament to the inevitable downfall that comes from turning away from God's commandments and leading a nation into sin. Jehu, anointed by the prophet Elisha as the new king of Israel, was on a mission to eradicate the house of Ahab and cleanse Israel of its idolatry. As he approached Jezreel, where Jezebel resided, news of his arrival spread quickly. Jezebel, defiant to the end, adorned herself in royal finery and makeup, perhaps in an attempt to intimidate Jehu or to die with dignity. She stood at the window of her palace, looking down upon Jehu with a mixture of disdain and arrogance. "Is it peace, Zimri, murderer of your master?" she called out, referencing Jehu's overthrow of her son, King Joram. But Jehu was unmoved by her taunts. He looked up at the servant standing beside Jezebel and commanded, "Who is on my side? Who?" At his words, 2 or 3 eunuchs glanced at each other, then at Jezebel, and made their decision. They seized her and threw her from the window. Jezebel's body hit the ground with a sickening thud. Horses trampled her underfoot, and Jehu's chariot rolled over her lifeless form. Later, when Jehu ordered her burial, fulfilling her status as a king's daughter, the searchers found only her skull, feet, and the palms of her hands. Dogs had devoured the rest, just as Elijah had prophesied. As we conclude the saga of Jezebel, her story serves as a poignant reminder of the consequences that arise from defiance and idolatry. Jezebel's reign was marked by ambition and the relentless pursuit of power, leading her to challenge the worship of Yahweh and propagate the worship of Baal and Asherah among the Israelites. Her actions not only divided the nation, but also brought divine judgment upon herself and her dynasty. The moral of Jezebel's story lies in the enduring principles of faithfulness and worship. It underscores the importance of remaining steadfast in one's devotion to God, as idolatry and disobedience ultimately lead to downfall and destruction. Through the prophet Elijah's steadfastness and God's unwavering justice, Jezebel's story illustrates that no amount of earthly power or influence can withstand the divine will. The story of Jezebel also emphasizes the significance of worshiping the true God, Yahweh. It highlights the dangers of turning away from God's commands and following after false gods and idols. Worshiping God not only strengthens spiritual connection, but also fosters unity, righteousness, and blessings within communities and nations. By worshiping God, individuals and societies align themselves with divine principles of love, justice, and mercy. It fosters a relationship based on trust and obedience, leading to spiritual fulfillment and eternal rewards. The story of Jezebel serves as a cautionary tale, urging us to prioritize God's will above worldly desires and to remain steadfast in faith, even in the face of adversity. In conclusion, Jezebel's story is a powerful narrative of the consequences of moral choices, the resilience of faith, and the sovereignty of divine justice. It inspires reflection on the enduring importance of worshiping God with sincerity and devotion, guiding us towards a path of righteousness and eternal significance. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more. Stay blessed.